Hello and welcome to a new Garage of Dad. Today I'm going to show you a car you've probably seen in many of my videos looking about in the background, and that's the BMW Compact. I know this is hard to believe, but I'm actually a child of the 70s. And I grew up watching all the rally stars of that era, Roger Clark and Ari Vanton, and all that I wanted was a Ford Escort RS. So every month saw me go down to the local Ford dealership and I would get the Ford cars brochure, and in that brochure there was a little supplement at the back and it had the RS Escorts, and eventually I managed to save up and I bought an RS Mexico, but all that I really wanted was a white RS2000, and at the time I couldn't really afford one because they were a lot dearer than the Mexico. And then family came along and this, that and the next thing, self-employment, and roll on 40 years and I still can't afford a Ford Escort RS2000, and nowadays they're going for an astronomical price, and to me that's just way too much for one of these, and they're not really an investment, it's something that you want to drive. So what's the best alternative? Well, I had a good think about this, and I've had BMW 318, 320 diesels and all that kind of thing, and I bought this Compact, and since then I've had two other Compacts, and I thought I'd try and build one to as near an RS2000 as I can, and this was the one that I bought. I bought this car just before the first lockdown, and it was a one owner from new and a lady owner, I think, and it was an automatic. So obviously the first thing I done was to get full automatic conversion kit into a gearbox, and I got that off Rennie in Lochgelly in Fife, and he gave me all the correct bits and pieces, you know, to fit it in. You know, you need a shorter prop shaft, obviously a gearbox, clutch slave cylinder, clutch master cylinder, clutch pedal, but with the BMW everything just bolts in and it took no time at all. But you know, when I was doing it, you know, I rubbed down and painted a lot of the parts underneath and cleaned the shell and all that sort of thing. And at the same time I got this short shift kit, and I looked for one that's got a long shaft in it and a PTFE top, and this one's adjustable, so a lot of them they're just too short, but this one is just absolutely spot on. It's just a joy to use. It's like a Winchester rifle, and I think it's kind of similar to the one in the MX-5. It's the same sort of change, you know, just really quick. And this gearbox that I've got is really fortunate. It goes into reverse and it goes into first really easy, so I think I picked up a good one there. And what I like about these cars is just the simple dash as well. But the one thing about it is that the steering wheel's slightly off to the left and the pedals are slightly off to the right, so I had to sort of, when I put the chair in, I had to move it as far over to the left as I could to line it up with the wheel. But once you get driving you sort of forget all about that. I also picked up the steering wheel of Rennie as well, which I quite like, and I got the BMW badge for the middle. But the seats are actually out of an E91 BMW, and BMW seats usually give me a sore back, but these were the very first ones that were really comfortable, and I managed to source these really good condition seats. A guy was breaking an E91 in Newcastle, and to get them to fit the Compact, what you have to do, you've got to weld these lugs on here, because that's the original bolts in the E91. So I welded the lug on here and a lug on here, and also put a couple of spacers in there to move the seats over to the left to align it centrally with the steering wheel. But I'm dead chuffed because they kind of match the original interior, and they've got these tight buckets, you know. I'm not a big bloke, but I can sit really tight in them, and if I wanted I could connect them up and tighten them even further, but I don't need to because they're a really nice snug fit on me anyway, so I don't need to do that. For doing auto tests and Targa events and that sort of thing, I bought this really clever handbrake which I'm really pleased with, and it's a fly-off handbrake. You used to get these in the Escorts years ago, so if you want to use it, you know, with the hydraulics, you just pull it like that, and the ratchet is a very clever lever system in here, just lets you pull it and let it go. But if you want to park it, you just hold the button, pull it up, and that's it, and you just let it go like that. You can either use it on the hydraulic, or you know, if you want to use it on the road, you just adjust the hydraulics so that doesn't work, and you still got the original cables here, which you then tighten up, and then you can use the original brake shoes on the back. And then when you come to the vent again, you just slacken that off and then tighten up the hydraulic part, and you're using the hydraulic system again. It's a really clever system, I really like it. I'll put the link into the description of the guy who sells these. So we'll have a look at the engine. And this is the M42 engine. This is the, I believe there's a later version of this, but this is the earlier one, which I believe is better. The reason, I just haven't a clue, but it's only done 61,000 miles, and it's as sweet as a nut, and it really revs, you know, it can rev, and it's got power right throughout the whole range. And what I did was, with it, the only modification I've done in here is that I've removed the viscous fan and put an electric fan on, and I can adjust the heat, you know, as to when it kicks in, and I put it on with a little relay as well. You're recommended to do that, I believe, by a lot of the E36 owners, and it seems to work well. But I think these put out about 140 brake, which is enough for me. You know, you can have a lot more power and put a 6-pot in it, but I didn't really want a 6-pot, you know, it just makes the front end a lot heavier. And I like the fact that, you know, when you drive this is an 1800, when you drive it, you can drive it flat out. You know, if you drive a 6-cylinder 2 to 300 brake horsepower engine flat out, especially in these roads, you're just going to get yourself into trouble. So during the lockdown, I took off all the suspension components and I rubbed them down. I got my mate to sandblast them, put them all back together, and I got grooved discs on the front, and the pads are just standard because I'm not one who does a lot of heavy braking. I just keep going. And the struts are all Sachs gas standard struts, and I've got E36 2.8 standard springs on the front, and on the back I've got 40mm lowered springs, but I had to put another 20mm spacer in it to get it lovely and level on the road. The compacts have this sort of nose down sort of look about them, which I'm not overly keen on, and I just wanted it as level as I could, and that's the way I managed to attain it, by cleverly using a spring and spacer combination, which I'm quite chuffed about. As you can see, it's a non-sunroof model, and these are actually very hard to get now, and I've got the M Sport rear wing in it as well, and I've not got the M Sport bumpers on it. I want to keep it as subtle as I could, and I quite like the original bumpers that are on it. I might put fog lights in the front, I'm not sure. And I got these nice sort of clear but smoked indicators as well that sort of match the headlamps. The headlamps are not great. I'm looking at getting either round hellas in the front, or LEDs that would bolt onto the bonnet, you know, if I do navigational events in the future. But it's a really clean motor, and I'm really pleased with it, you know. And it's, as I said, it's kind of my RS2000 alternative, and I kind of got it as close as I could to a sort of standard RS2000 spec. And I think I've kind of achieved that. And it's got a sort of modern, sort of retro look, you know. When you see an old Escort on the roads nowadays, they look old, and you look a bit nerdy sitting in them. But at least with the Compact, these are sort of cool with young lads as well. My sons love this car as well, and they would drive about in it too, you know. I don't let them. Actually, my middle son, we went away out on a little test drive and he put the foot down in the corner, and with a limited slip diff, he spun it in the corner. I think he got a bit of a fright. It was quite funny though, and it was low speed. But I'm really looking forward to doing auto tests and Tiger rallies and events in this. I think it'll be a really good car for it. And as I said, it's a car you can actually drive it to the event, do the event, and then drive it home. You know, it's that reliable, and I would rely on it, you know, to do that. So I'll get it going and see how it drives. I'm no road test expert, but I'll just try and describe as best I can, you know, how the thing actually drives. I love this gearbox. It's quick up through the gears, but it is quite a low geared car. I'm not quite sure what ratio the diff is. It's a limited slip diff, and I bought it way down in Wales second hand, and you know, I wasn't sure if it was a good one or not, but I've tried it out and it's really quiet in operation, and even turning in Tesco's, you know, it's still quite quiet. And I've had it in a little gravel lay-by, and it actually works really well, so I'm quite chuffed with that. Around that roundabout any speed you want, and it just picks up, and you've really got to rev this car to get it going. But once it's going, you know, these are quite high speed corners, and it just sticks to the road like glue. So we're approaching a set of corners that I really like, and you just choose your angle and it just goes round. So just slow it down a couple of gears. Fast 90 left we're coming into. And bears left again. We're catching up very rapidly in a fancy Porsche. If I wondered who this idiot is coming up behind him. Around a long 90 right. And we come up very rapidly behind this Porsche. I think it's not Cayman, it's the big fancy 4x4 thing. Problem is, we come to the straight and he'll take off. As Colin McRae once said, straights are for fast cars, corners are for fast drivers. So we're just approaching a fast right. And the Porsche is taken off. But it doesn't bother me, I'll catch him up in the next corners. But as I say, this gearbox is a delight to use. You know, you don't need to, but you slot it down in the corners and it just clicks in. And it's an adjustable short shift, this. And there's lots of short shifts on the market, but I really wanted this adjustable one. One, because it's got the long lever on it, which I quite like, the PTFE gear knob. And two, you know, I don't like them when they're too short. You know, they become too nutty to use and difficult to get into gear. But I must say, this gearbox is excellent, and I got this gearbox off Rennie in Lochgelly, and he gave me the whole kit to fit in the car and everything that was needed. You know, the clutch slave cylinder, and there's only a little bit of wiring that you had to do to sort of cancel out the auto box, but it was a very easy conversion to do, and I'm pleased I've done it. And it makes the car, and the car's only done 61k, and the engine's very sweet. It's obviously been well maintained, so it pulls really well throughout the whole rev range. And we we go, the Porsche is turning off. He's gotten scared. Caught up with him on the corners. But it's the kind of car that you can drive flat out everywhere. And that's kind of what I like, you know. You get these Evos, you know, with 300 brake, and on these roads, if you drive these flat out, you know, basically you come off. But it's this, you know, you can take it with the scruff of the neck and really drive it. And I know that some complain about the old axle that's in it, the E30 axle, but you know, for the kind of driving I'm doing on these sort of roads, you know, there's no problem. And I've got it well set up with the Sachs gas suspension as well, and it's not too firm, but it's firm enough, you know, to get a good exciting ride, especially around the corners. I have to say, once I built the car, put it all together and took it away for an MOT and took it for a drive, I've not touched it since. So that's either testament to my ability to build a car or the quality of this car, and somehow I think it's the latter. Okay, so here's my little acceleration test. I'm going to accelerate onto the bypass and up to the sign, and it's got nearly 70 miles an hour to beat off the Audi A2, so there's a bit of competition there, so we'll see how we get on. And 75 miles an hour, so it's 5 miles an hour quicker than the Audi A2 after its stage 1 tune, so I'm quite chuffed at that. It would have been pretty disappointing if I was slower than an Audi A2 TDI. So there we have it. There you have it, my BMW Compact. I'm really pleased with this car, and it was a joy to work on last year. You know, all the jobs that you do in it are quite easy, and there's plenty of room, you know, to work in it, and the parts are plentiful as well. You know, you just go on eBay and there's loads of people breaking E36s. But the Compacts are getting rarer now, you know, so the last time I looked on the auction site, there were only 2 of these on it, and one was an M Sport, and it needed all the sills welded up and quite a bit of work done in it, you know, and that was about 1,500 quid. But to get one that's in good condition, you know, a proper M Sport, you're now looking at sort of £3,000 to £4,000. So I was lucky to get this one, albeit it was an automatic, but it was a one owner from you, and it did need a couple of patches welded on the jacking points, but that was very minor, you know, compared to the work that I've done on. I once had a 15-year-old Escort that needed inner wings, rear arches, chassis welded, you know, outer wings, front panel, you know, that was only after 15 years. And this thing is now 25 years old, so that's no bad for a 25-year-old car. And I've got it exactly how I want it now. I've still got to plumb in the handbrake for the auto tests and the Targa rallies next year, but that won't take me very long. And there's not actually much more that I want to do to it, you know. I might fit a roll cage, you know, for track days, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if I want to take this on the track anyway, because it's in such good nick. But it's to be used, so, you know, I might just do that very thing. So so keep watching, you know. I might actually end up doing a track day in it. But would I still have a Ford Escort RS? I probably would, but I think if I paid 30 grand for one, I don't. It's a funny thing to say, but I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much as you know, if I paid 2 grand for it. You know, you can buy any sort of car if you had any amount of money, but to actually buy this, you know, for under £1,000 and spend only another £1,000 on it, and I've got something that is equally, if not better than any Ford Escort, you know. I'm quite pleased at that, and it gives me a bit of satisfaction to know, to kind of know that thing, you know. So, as usual, if you've liked the video, thumbs up, and please subscribe. There'll be more videos come along very soon.